Wyerton Willie says we can expect an early spring. Shubikanati Sam says not so fast. Fred LaMarmont died, so who knows when spring will come. Sometimes it feels like we just keep going and going and going with no end in sight. But maybe, just maybe, what we need to do is stop, look around, and realize that we're already there. We're here, wherever that may be, and we are not alone. And as we go along, we are meant to enjoy the moments. We are meant to worship. Is that what worship means? Welcome to Worship with Jubilee United Church. Let's be comforted, challenged, and engaged. Let's enjoy these next few moments together. And as for the good news, well, for some of us, it's a walk in the snow. For Suzanne McLean, it's her 5th great-grandchild. And for the rest of us, how about ice cream with good friends? That's good news. Every time that we gather, virtually or in person, we commit ourselves to being a safe place. A safe place for you, for your loved ones, for your children or your parents, for your hopes, for your hurts. It is our intent to be community with you, to love you as you are. We are not all the same, and yet we not only acknowledge that, but we celebrate the fact that we don't all vote the same way or have the same ways of speaking about God or Jesus. But we are always learning how to love each other, even when we disagree, even when we have been wrong or been wronged. We always take a moment to acknowledge the land upon which most of us live, work, worship, and play, land often divided by maps and buried under pavement. The land upon which Jubilee United Church sits was home, comfort, and faith to the first peoples, including the Petun, the Wendat, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and many others. The place that we call Toronto was a diverse and dynamic community long before any settlers arrived. And we acknowledge this not only to pay historic tribute to the people who were here then and are here now, but to remind ourselves that these roads upon which we commute were once paths made by animals seeking water. And those paths became trails for people on portage, and then streets, and now developments. There is history, wisdom, and spirit below our feet. We acknowledge that European settlers came with an intent to colonize and not cooperate. And to that end, Indigenous peoples have been under attack and denied the rights, freedoms, and supports that we owe one another. We commit ourselves to living on this land with respect and love for the people and the wisdom that have been here for so long. In the month of February, Black History Month, we acknowledge that Canada is not just a country of Indigenous peoples and settlers. Many of African descent were brought here as slaves, came here not of their own free will. Yes, we have been a final destination on the Underground Railway, but many black folk were stolen from their homes and families and brought here as unpaid labor. Today, many black folk cannot trace their family trees through places like Ancestry.com because in the past, parents and children were separated and sold as chattel, deemed less valuable, less human than white citizens. Slavery was abolished and great strides have been made, but systemic racism is real, and black Canadians live a very different life than others. Expected to fit into standards that do not respect their humanity, criticized for being too black or not black enough, told to go back where you came from, even when they've lived in Canada for generations. As we desire to celebrate Black history in Canada, we must also lament the past, acknowledge the present, and commit ourselves to honoring Black history in Canada and the many ways that those of African descent have shaped our country and our culture. A month is a very short time, a few minutes on a Sunday even shorter. But let this be an invitation to not only recognize the wonderful diversity of God's creation, but also the diversity and power of God's love as we experience it in each other. Speaking of love, we are an affirming community, which means that we are a safe and welcoming place for all those who express their identity in the LGBTQ2S+ communities. That's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, two-spirited, and more. I use he, his pronouns, but our community will always include those who are non-binary, identify with other pronouns, and help to broaden our understanding of gender, identity, and God. We are all created in God's image, meant and empowered to reveal, receive, and share love. And so, here we are together, but not the same. Acknowledging Black History Month, but also aware that we are many races, many perspectives, many experiences. Many paths have led us to be together in this moment, in this place. However you come to be here, welcome. We are all God's children together. Digital worship and community are important to Jubilee, and you are part of that. Joining us right now or engaging with us on TikTok.
Hi, it's Reverend Bri-anne, and I am here on a Sunday night after a long day of in-person worship and then online Resistance Church worship in the evening to remind you on day 7 that God loves you, fully, completely, unconditionally loves you. To your core.
Following us on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube as part of Resistance Church or one of our online groups. Maybe this is the first time you've ever looked in. It doesn't matter. You are part of Jubilee. Jubilee United Church also gathers in person, and our current safety policy is masks optional, meaning you're not required to wear a mask when gathering indoors at Jubilee. But we do ask that you respect those who do wear masks and wish to practice social distancing. Please approach people carefully and be sure that they're ready for you to be close. If you choose to wear a mask, please know that others will respect your decision and do their best to make you feel safe and comfortable. We are in this together. We do ask, if you are feeling unwell for any reason or have been exposed to COVID, that you stay home. We hope to continue to emerge safely and lovingly from this time of pandemic, and thus far, we've been quite successful thanks to your understanding, your patience, and your cooperation. Big news. We will be having a pancake supper for Shrove Tuesday. Tuesday, February 21st at 6:30 p.m., we will have pancakes, bacon, sausages, and ice cream, all of the fats, as we feast the day before Lent begins. You are invited to join us. You're invited to volunteer and make the dinner happen. There's no named cost for this supper. You're invited to donate as you see fit and appropriate when you come. You can volunteer by reaching out to me at nseli@jubileeunited.ca, and together with a couple of emails, we'll figure out how you can help. You should also know that there will be an Ash Wednesday service the next day, February 22nd, but we will also have ashes on Tuesday night, so if you'd like to have the imposition of ashes after your feast, there will be an opportunity. This week in person, we will be sharing ulterior worship. That's Monday at 6:30 p.m. at the sanctuary. And on Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. in the garden room, we'll be taking a look at another of the 10 Commandments. No experience is required. We are always glad to see new faces. And the old faces are pretty good too. Also coming up, but now at a later date, Definitely Not Church will be back with some romance tips from the Bible. Now, we know it was originally scheduled for February the 12th, but we moved our date to Sunday, February 26th at 7:30 p.m. so as not to draw too many people away from the Super Bowl. You know, they pay a lot for those ads, and we'd hate to decimate their audience. So, on February 26th, tongues in cheeks and hearts on sleeves, the Howling Heretics hope to make you chuckle with pop songs from the past 8 decades and some great romantic advice that's only 2 or 3 millennia old. Sunday, February 26th at 7:30 p.m. They tell me the key to getting something across is to repeat it 3 times. Admission is free, there will be coffee and cookies, and of course, donations are always gladly accepted. Last week we had our Pizza and Ideas gathering, and we collected some amazing ideas for things to do at Jubilee in 2023. But we're still listening. So today, Sunday, February 5th, you're invited to join me on Zoom at 3 p.m. and we can talk about what we imagine for Jubilee in 2023, especially for the online community. What are you looking for? How can we help you develop your faith? What is it that we can do together that enhances our lives and sense of community? That's today, February 5th at 3 p.m. Join me on Zoom. The link is on the Jubilee website and the Jubilee Facebook page. Oh, and if that's not going to work for you, you can always email me with your ideas. I'd love to hear them. Practical, fantastical, aspirational, even impossible. Let's hear them. Of course, I'm looking for pictures of life. I'd love to have a picture of how you view the world. You know, the view from out of your window. Or a picture taken on a walk. How about the face of someone who delights you, or just a happy time? Something that you see often, but maybe others might miss it. How about it? Send me some pictures, will you please? And of course, limericks. This week it was all me, as a few of our veterans are taking a much-deserved rest from their quills. So, how about you? Isn't it about time? No pressure, just a little bit of fun. I would love to have your rhymes to share with the community. Pictures and limericks, please. Everything, pictures, limericks, and ideas can all be sent to me at nseli@jubileeunited.ca. It's already February. Can you believe it? And things are happening. Windows have been cleaned as we said goodbye to Christmas. Volunteers have come forward to help lead committees. Folks are volunteering to be Sunday greeters or facilitators of the ever-important coffee. And others are volunteering for the pancake supper and coming out to the green team and the refugee committee. You know, we are bit by bit becoming more active and connecting with folks old and new. So thank you for that. Thank you for your gifts and your time and your love. Thank you as well for your financial support. It may not seem as holy as some of the other things we do. You know, we don't like to talk about money. But your contributions to the financial health of Jubilee assure us that we have a place to gather, that we have supports to help people gather and to learn. We have a place for others to gather and be included as they grow in faith and holy relationship. Your financial contributions help us to build community, meaningful, holy community. Your contributions through PAR, pre-authorized remittance, check, e-transfer to admin@jubileeunited.ca, through canadahelps.org, or shared in person on Sundays through cash or church envelopes are all acts of love. They inspire us. You have earned the money that you share, so in giving, you bind your life to the community and ministry of Jubilee United Church, and that is no small thing. It is amazing. It is powerful. It is love. And it changes lives. So thank you for your gifts, your contributions, and thank you for living your faith with Jubilee.
Last September, as many know, we held the Just Because silent auction. Do you ever wonder what happens after the items are purchased? I'm here to tell you my story about what I purchased and how the experience has affected me. Little background. I got involved in the Just Because auction as Norm needed someone that likes computers to run the online auction. I like computers and I like learning new things, so I volunteered to do it. I knew the items that were being donated, and honestly, I was amazed at the generosity that surrounded this event. People donated items, experiences, food, services. There was nothing too big or too small. And the volunteers that helped categorize, itemize, set up, collect funds, take down was also a sight to be seen. On the day of the live auction, the church was buzzing. There was music, food, friends, time to shop and look around. It was a fantastic day. The online auction ran for a week and was also fun to watch as people bid on items and then outbid each other. I was at a Blue Jays game as the auction was coming to an end, and my friend was bugging me that I was paying more attention to my phone than the game. Well, that's because there were a couple items I really wanted. And I, like others, were happy to find out we won them. So my story. I purchased 3 items. One was a donated item, one was an experience, and one was food. The donated item was a compound miter saw. Now, if you know my husband at all, you know we own every tool possible. And I knew he had a miter saw, but thought he might be interested in having a second one. When I took it home after the auction, he had to take it out of my car. It was too big for me. I really wanted to put it in the house, but I just couldn't get it there. Of course, he was on his way out, but came over to help me. When he saw what was in the car, gone were his plans of going out. He was like a kid in a candy store, opening it up, putting it together, testing it out, of course, and then mentioning it proudly to everyone he knows how he now had 2. And has he used it? Oh, let me put it this way. I don't see it in our house anymore. It lives in his truck, going everywhere he goes, and being used on whatever handyman job he is doing. The next item, you all know about it. It was an experience. I was the person that purchased a church service. This truly was an experience, something I've actually always wanted to do, and I was so thrilled that I had the chance to do it. The ministry team was fantastic in helping to support me, and I enjoyed being able to share with you the gift of music and reflection. If the church offers this again, buy it and enjoy. So my last item, it was food. I was the winner of the 5 soups by Jean L.G. Watson. Anyone that is the main cook in their house knows what a treat it is to have someone else cook for them. I could not imagine the joy I had in trying the 5 different soups that Jean made for me. On a cold winter day, to come into the house and have a warm homemade soup already prepared, well, it's priceless. But Jean took it a step further, realizing that this was something not only for me, but for Jess. And when Jess went back to university, Jean took into account when I would be visiting her and would make the soup drop-off based on my visit schedule. This allowed Jess and I to continue to experience our soups together, as I would take it there for lunch, leaving half with her and bringing the rest home. My soups ended last week, but my memory of them will go on much longer. Whether you donated a gift, an experience, a food, a service, volunteered time to help with the event, or purchased something in the event just because you were enriched by the experience. Thank you, Jubilee, for an event that happened in September and continues to warm my soul today. And thank you to all of you who were a part of it for sharing your light and your gifts with all of us.
The prophet Isaiah, chapter 58, verses 1 through 9. Shout out, do not hold back. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Announce to my people their rebellion, to the house of Jacob their sins. Yet day after day they seek me and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that practiced righteousness and did not forsake the ordinance of their God. They ask of me righteous judgments. They delight to draw near to God. Why do we fast, but you do not see? Why humble ourselves, but you do not notice? Look, you serve your own interests on your fast day and oppress all your workers. Look, you fast only to quarrel and to fight and to strike with a wicked fist. Such fasting as you do today will not make your voice heard on high. Is this the fast that I choose, a day to humble oneself? Is it to bow down the head like a bulrush and to lie in sackcloth and ashes? Will you call this a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? Is not this the fast that I choose, to loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover them, and not to hide yourself from your own kin? Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up quickly. Your vindicator will go before you. The glory of God shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry for help, and he will say, Here I am.
Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 through 20. You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, but is thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven.
Let us pray. Loving God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your eyes. And God, may I never lightly presume to preach your word. And may we never lightly presume to hear your word. For in your word is abundant life. Amen. I should tell you that I recorded a version of this sermon 8 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, some time ago. The week after Christmas, that's when I recorded it. And I recorded it for an organization that provides worship materials for churches that don't have ministers or worship providers within their community. They gather, but they need material. And so from time to time, I record a sermon or sometimes some other stuff for this organization, and they share it. And I don't do it just because, I'm a nice guy, I want to be supportive. I am a nice guy. I do want to be supportive. But also they take the raw material I send them, they edit it together, and they produce a beautiful digital sermon. So I can put that into the digital service, and there, my week is easy. The job is done, it's check, over. So indeed, they sent me the sermon, and I sat down to watch it, sitting in my office, and it looked pretty good. It really did. I mean, they got 2 camera angles going. That's great, because you know what? I'm great in profile. Who knew? But I was thoroughly getting into it. Text was pretty good. I was enjoying it, and I could hear out in the parking lot, I assume, a car alarm going off. It was rather distracting, but surely somebody's going to get it. So just trying to refocus on the preacher, who's really, really good, thoroughly enjoying him. Car alarm continued. So I paused the sermon and I went to look in the parking lot. It was my car alarm going off. So I pulled out my keys to turn off the alarm, and it didn't stop. So then I went to the car and I opened the door and it stopped. And there he was in the passenger seat. You can probably guess. I recognized him from last week's sermon. It was Jesus in my car. He was in robes. Hey, Norm, nice car. I really like the heated seats. What does one say in that moment? I mean, even if you sort of were talking to Jesus last week, do you say thanks? What are you doing here? Hey, I was just writing about you. I didn't say anything. I was just dumbstruck and gobsmacked, stunned. Get in, Norm. You're letting all the heat out. I got in, closed the door. I put on my seatbelt because I kind of had a feeling that I was going to be shaken up a little bit. Let's go for a ride. I'm sorry, what? Let's go for a ride. I want to see how comfortable the car is. You're thinking of buying a car, Jesus? Yeah, and he just looked at me. You know who I am, right? Yeah, you're Jesus, the Alpha and the Omega, the Lamb of God, our Redeemer, begotten, not made, Son of Man. He interrupted, right. Yeah, to all those things, Norm. So I don't need a car. I just thought it'd be fun to go for a drive, you know? I brought snacks. I stared, but I said nothing. He held up a bag. Dates. I said more, nothing. And Timbits. Okay. I pulled out of the parking lot. Which way? I asked, looking forward to being able to brag that I follow Jesus. Turn right, he said. And I did as requested. And then he opened the bag and he offered it to me. And I reached in and around the dates and I grabbed a Timbit, the little birthday cake one. Oh, my favorite. Thank you, Jesus. So Norm, it's about your sermon. My sermon? It's not very good. Oh, man. I gotta tell you, it's not every day that the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world knocks your sermon. Especially when it's already recorded. It's the whole salt thing, Norm. But Jesus, and I knew that I had to tread really carefully here, you kind of messed up. I did. Well, it's just that, you know, when you say you're the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It's no longer good for anything, but it's thrown out and trampled underfoot. You remember that part? Well, the thing is, salt is salt. It's always salt. It can't lose its saltiness because it's salt. Salt doesn't really fade or actually grow stale. It's kind of basic kitchen chemistry nowadays. And you didn't know that back then, I suppose, but oh, he said thoughtfully, no. I thought for sure you were going to tell me that salts are ionic compounds that result from the neutralization reaction of an acid and a base, you know, composed of cations and anions, and the product is electrically neutral. I thought maybe you'd want to distinguish between inorganic, like chloride, and organic, like fluoride. Or maybe even talk about sulfates, you know. But no, Norm, that kitchen chemistry thing, that's really good too. I must have looked stunned. Yeah, Norm, you see, I know kitchen chemistry. See, I was after something a little more, okay? I mean, honestly, you literalists just make me crazy. Hey, I'm not a literalist. Oh, I see. But didn't you just insist on giving me a chemistry lesson because I used the word salt? Seems pretty literal to me. See, Norm, I want you to think about salt. I want you to think about how it preserves things and adds flavor. How in many ancient cultures it was actually used as currency. You got paid in salt. I want you to understand how valuable and yet how ubiquitous it is. I want you to think about how salt not only flavors by itself, but it actually seems to bring out the flavors in others. Say what? It brings out flavors in others just by being there. And then Jesus produced a thermos and he opened it. Oh, you could smell the hot chocolate. Pull over, he said. I did. And he poured some hot chocolate into the cup and he handed it to me. Taste. I did. Good? Oh, it was. Oh. And then he reached into his robes and he produced a salt shaker. Here, he said, give me your hot chocolate. What are you going to do? I'm going to put a little salt in it. No, you're going to ruin it. Trust me, Norm. No, nobody likes to drink salt. You're going to wreck some really nice hot chocolate. Norm, honestly, you trust me with your salvation, but not your hot chocolate. I gave him my cup, And he added a small shake, a pinch of salt. And he handed the cup back to me. Taste. I did. Better? Oh, it was. So much better. So much more chocolatey. I told you. And then he put the thermos and the salt shaker in my cup holders. You see, Norm, when I said those words about salt, I was talking to my disciples, my followers, and I was reminding them of the role of salt in a covenant. A covenant of salt? Norm, seriously, where were you ordained? Didn't you study covenants? I mean, United Church folk, you get a lot right, but your Old Testament, it's not so good. In Exodus, salt is part of the incense that was used in the tent where Moses came to meet Dad. His dad? No, my dad. Our dad, our Heavenly Father and Mother. Let's get over the limits of language, okay? Let's go with the I am that I am. The holy they, them. Oh, okay. And in Leviticus, it's the salt of the covenant that should be part of all offerings. Again, in Numbers, salt is part of all offerings. In Chronicles, the kingdom was given to David by a covenant of salt. You see, salt is a sign of a covenant between God and humanity. A promise by God to be present with the people, to bring justice and life, to protect the weak and the oppressed. And as my followers, you and your church, you're expected to be signs of the covenant. You're expected to be salt in the world. Oh, so more than flavoring. Oh, Norm, so much more. So thinking about my sermon then, when you said that we had to be more righteous than the Pharisees, did you mean that we had to be more chocolatey, more aware of the covenants? Is that why my sermon is so bad? I need more about chocolate Pharisees? Actually, Norm, what I meant about being more righteous than the Pharisees is that I was, and I continue to be, tired of empty ritual. People going through the motions without any real meaning. Isaiah said it so well. Look, you serve your own interest on your fast day, and you oppress all your workers. Is such a fast that I choose a day to humble oneself? Is it to bow down the head like a bulrush and lie in sackcloth and ashes? Will you call this a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? Is not this the fast that I choose? To loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover them and not hide yourself from your own kin? I must have had a blank look. What? You didn't think I could quote scripture, Norm? Isaiah got it right. Real worship is the kind of worship that's lived out in the real world, not hidden behind closed doors. So you don't like the way that I do worship? No, Norm, no, it's good. Some of the hymns, but I love when the choir sings. I loved Bri-anne's response to Isaiah today. It was awesome. No, Norm, I'm talking about real worship, about real salt, real signs of God's presence. So let's talk about your sermon, okay? Besides relying a little too much on literal kitchen chemistry, what's the problem? You tell me. Come on, Norm, because it's really not your best work. Oh, I don't know. It's just the world these days. Everybody is divisive and negative, at each other's throats. Jean Vanier has broken my heart and my confidence. A young man in the U.S. was beaten to death by men who were supposed to serve and protect. Here at home, a man appears to have been beaten to death by kids who should have been in a park tobogganing. It's Black Heritage Month, and yet I see racism deeply embedded in people that I love, maybe even a little bit in me. I can tell that a climate crisis is upon us, but we're not doing enough. I see my friends and colleagues gathering in silent prayer at City Hall to open up warming centers so people don't freeze to death, but I don't see anything happening. I don't know what to say in a sermon that's going to fix that. I don't know how to be clever. I can't fix any of this and make it better. And that's what preaching is to you? Fixing things? Being clever? Making things better? Well, maybe. Norm, speaking in terms of simple kitchen chemistry, I just want you to be salt, not the whole stew. You know, like Bri-anne and the others who prayed in front of City Hall to make people aware, because it does make a difference, Norm. It doesn't fix everything, but it adds a little salt to the stew. We were quiet for a little while. And then I noticed that we were sitting in a school parking lot, and other cars were pulling in. People were getting out, and they were gathering in front of the school. Norm, let's go join them. Who are they? Well, Norm, a young man in town. He didn't know what to do with his hurt and his grief over the things of the world either. So he made some calls, and he went on Facebook, and he invited people to gather at the school and then walk together to the town hall as an act of love for some folks who've been targeted by acts of vandalism and threats of violence. People have whispered and shouted horrible things at them, and they're afraid. Oh, wow. Well, good for him. Is it a large group who are being targeted? No, Norm, it's a family of 7. But they're different from their neighbors. 7? That's all? Oh, no. We could do this way bigger. We got to bring this downtown. I should talk to him, okay? We could get lots of people to join in. And I mean, I bet that there are other people, like this family who could also use some support. I know where we can get a deal on candles. We could have speakers. We could have a whole rally. Like, we could probably get on the news, really get a lot of attention. That's what we should be doing. Norm, that's great. That's great. But this is really good too. This is salt. Tonight, I want you to be salt, not the whole stew. So join this little group and go for a walk. Might not make the news, but it's going to make 7 vulnerable people feel safer tonight. Feel loved. Feel like they're not alone. I got out of the car. We started walking, and pretty soon there were like 50, 60 of us, young and old, all sorts of folks. And the numbers kept growing. And I saw 2 women in the brightest dresses that I've ever seen. Jesus saw me looking. Do you know what those dresses are? Yeah, I think those are jingle dresses. You're right. Why are they wearing them? Well, why not? Well, I don't know. I'm used to seeing them like, at powwows or in pictures, like not on walks to support, people who feel threatened or afraid. But Norm, these dresses are all about dancing into health and wholeness, about community caring about those who are weak and hurting. These dresses are about ancestors and vision and hope. These dresses are signs of resilience, endurance, and being yourself in joy, even when the world says you shouldn't be joyful, or even yourself. These dresses are salty, and so are the women who are wearing them. Salt, signs of God's presence. And as we walked, I met people, Christians and Muslims and Jews, Sikhs, Buddhists, atheists, some of those none of your business, thank you very much people, those ones. And I lost track of Jesus in the crowd. I couldn't see the robes anymore. And then I couldn't find the face, except that I had this feeling that I could see His face in all of the faces around me. In this simple walk, in this beautiful effort, God's promise of love was evident. As we faced our fears and our vulnerability, as we showed our love, God's love, we were salt. Wow. When we were done, I went back to my car and I kind of approached it slowly, hoping, and opening my door carefully and hopefully. I looked to see Jesus, but he wasn't there. The thermos was. And I opened it, and the hot chocolate was still hot. And the salt shaker was right there. And I didn't think twice. I just shook some salt into that warm, dark liquid, and I took a long, warm sip. And it was so good. I sat there for quite a while, sipping from the thermos and wondering how I would ever get a sermon out of any of this. Or maybe I should just go with the one that I recorded before. Thanks be to God. Let us pray. Loving God, thank you for the stew. All of it. The meat and the potatoes, the lentils and the rice, the ciappino, the cassoulet, protein and sauce, and the vegetables, spices, everything that goes into the stew that is our life. Thank you for enough food today and the assurance that we should be fine tomorrow. But let us never forget those who do not have such comforts. Those for whom food insecurity is not a fancy phrase heard in the media, but a reality. Food insecurity is real. And it's real for those with whom we work every day. People that we sit beside on the subway or even at church. So God, let us invite more people to our tables and share more generously the bounty of life. Thank you for those who spend their time making sure that others are fed and that nutrition is available and affordable for all of your children, all of us. In this stew that we call life, thank you for the things that strengthen and bring us joy. Friends, family who understand and accept us, communities that welcome and include us, kindness from strangers, meaningful pursuits, rewarding work. A sunny day when we'd started to believe that they were a thing of the past. A warm sweater that makes us glad that it's cold. Laughter, plans and hopes for tomorrow. The satisfaction that comes from worship and meditation. The companionship of others. And the dreams that delight us. Thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you. We recognize that there are elements in this stew that make it bitter, and we would remove those. We would put an end to racism, to poverty, to gender-based violence, to ableism and ageism. We would have warm places and homes for all. We would end war and aggression, colonial oppression, and simple evil. But the truth is, we don't know how. But we thank you for the strength and the faith to remove what we can from ourselves and the world around us. We thank you that we are able to commit ourselves to better ways and stand with those who are hurting and alone. Refuse to ignore hatred and allow ignorance to rule. We thank you, God, for a faith that opens our hearts that we might love the world into being just and loving. Your kingdom as promised by Jesus. We thank you, God, that we might be salt in this stew of life. And so we ask that we may bring out the best in others. Help our friends be sweeter, spicier, stronger, more themselves, that together we might live in the world as we are, signs of your presence and sharers of your love. We pray in the name of Jesus, who gave us the recipe for this stew and taught us to pray with these words. The prayer of Jesus from the Message translation of Matthew's Gospel. Our Father in heaven, reveal who you are. Set the world right. Do what's best, as above, so below. Keep us alive with 3 square meals. Keep us forgiven with you and forgiving others. Keep us safe from ourselves and the devil. You're in charge. You can do anything you want. You're ablaze in beauty. Yes, yes, yes. Go forth from this moment and go out into the world and be salt. Bring out the best in others. Offer what you have and know that you don't have to be the whole stew. You don't have to solve it all. You just need to be you. Be salt. And know that as you dare to be salt, God the Creator is with you. Jesus walks with you, walks with us all. And the Holy Spirit absolutely surrounds and fills each and every one of us. Until we gather again, virtually or in person, be salt. Amen. Amen.
sound. I like this part right here. Come on.
Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on.
Let us march on.
Till victory is won.
Now we add a little something to it. Just to encourage you. We're going to take you to church later. Let's go.
We'll keep marching, fighting till the victory is won.
To all my brothers out there.
Hold your head up, brother, till the victory is won.
To all my sisters in the struggle.
Keep believing, sister, till the victory is won.
Till that day.
Till the